In Tech Week, hosted by Capital Factory. And all week we have been really focused on hearing the voice of the founder. And Capital Factory has put together such an amazing environment to allow us to connect and to allow founders to grow and reach the market and do amazing things. And I'm here with Laura from Divergent Minds. Laura, you run a consulting company, and I run a consulting company, so we have a lot of really cool things to talk about. But you are very focused. You have a specific customer and you know exactly how to address their needs. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Typically, I think what we find is in the business environment, there are a lot of companies right now who are just starting. They don't have access to a tech team. They don't have access to a wide breadth of development or that skill set. And so my husband and I started this company. Part of the reason why we called it Divergent Minds is my husband is very much a tech person, very much ADHD. And for us, I'm more on the creative side. I have a very long background in payments and in cybersecurity. And so the two disparate connections that we really decided to make the focus of our company on is really how do we go into a company and decide where really is the need, where there's friction? Is there something that's happening from a process perspective or from a payments perspective that is not functioning properly? And how do we use either AI, machine learning, or automation to help solve that problem?
So who is your customer?
Our customer is typically medium to large size clients.
Okay.
Minimum, though, I would say of 5 million in annual revenue. Now, obviously, the contracts that we have a larger life cycle because when you're going in and trying to determine where the problems are, there's a lot of tech stack that companies are trying to employ right now. And as you start looking under the hood and start trying to figure out where the problems arise, is it in the payment journey? Is it in the process journey? There's a lot of things that have to be integrated in order to try to develop something that gives a really good, smooth user experience.
I'm in the data analytics space. I've done a lot with logistics, and a lot of times that also comes into payment logistics. And we've realized as the company grows, we had a client that went from, they were two $70 million companies. PE came in and bought 5 or 6 more companies. The next thing you know, there are 12 different companies with the same name.
Right.
And they're $1 billion in revenue, and their cash flow is just to the point where they can't even pay their invoices. Like they're having to borrow money to pay payroll. And we're like, how could this happen? And we look, and their average AR days outstanding is 70. Mm-hmm. They have $200 million in aged receivables, and they have 12 software systems, so they have to look into the invoicing. And so to jump in and see, hey, you have a very real operational problem. And the problem that you have is you are not receiving your funds in the contracted amount of time, and you're not doing anything to resolve that. So this is the sort of problem where you could come in, you have a specialty in helping solve things like this. Probably not yet for the $1 billion companies, but certainly for the $10 million, $15 million company, you're running slim margins. Cash flow is critical.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say the other piece too is from a technology perspective, right? Mm-hmm. There's so much that's happening and it's moving so quickly that at the speed of that growth, you really have to sit there and evaluate, like, where do I start and where do I begin that focus? So our team can actually come in and look at the process that you're putting in, that you have in place today, look at the disparate type of tech stack that you have, and try to figure out what's really going to be the best approach for trying to improve that process overall. One of the clients that we're working with right now, it's an insurtech company. Okay. And effectively, to your point, it was just part of an M&A. So there's 3 companies coming in together trying to figure out, like, hey, we have NetSuite, we have SAP, we have all of these different disparate ERP systems, and what do we do? Where do we start? And how do we get them to talk to each other? How do we take those applications and really focus on what's going to maximize the best ROI for us?
Done that a lot of times, yeah. And a lot of times these guys, they start running like a nightly ETL process, mm-hmm. and then when that nightly ETL process starts running 36 hours, and it's overwhelming each other. That's where you call me. My nickname was, I was a data engineer for a long time. I was always big data.
Yeah.
So coming in and helping bring that down to 5 minutes, running a couple times a day. And
right.
That's been really, really important. It's interesting how different people, especially PE companies, they think they buy 3 companies and they put them together and they immediately they start throwing out all these words, and then they start talking about synergy. They start talking about operational excellence, but they don't do anything to improve the operations. And they don't go in and really do the business consolidations. A lot of times, their metrics are outdated, or they don't have them at all. They don't, and when the PE firms come in and bought the three companies together, and they put somebody in charge and walk away, they never came in and said, "Hey, these are the guide rails, or these are the metrics that we're going to watch to make sure that this is a successful enterprise." And days in AR outstanding, watching your margin, watching your percentage of growth. We had a company where they literally had 9 different definitions of net profit, and we had to build in the warehouse the 9 different calculations for net profit. And there are different departments that weren't looking at anything the same way. And one of my favorite authors in the data space has always said that all metrics are wrong, but some are useful. So how do you guide your company? You can't do process improvement unless you're measuring, and you don't know if you have reached anything unless you put measurements in place. What kind of measurements or KPIs are you helping your clients look at?
Yeah, so I would say first, obviously, we have to understand what is it that they're like, what's their barometer, what's their level right now, right? So if you're looking at DPO or if you're looking at DSO, our goal is to sit down and look at an environment and map out, again, where exactly are the transactions coming in. We talked with a prospect this morning, in fact, who they are an agency company where they manage basically celebrities, right? So they've got money coming in from the managers, and they have money coming in from that they have to pay out to the agents, and they're trying to figure out how do we tie all of those disparate pieces of transactions and cash flows together when we don't have access to all of that information, right? Like we're not in charge of actually the first round of collecting that payment, but yet we're still responsible at the end for being able to pay that out. And so for us, what our approach is really going to be is agile is the big buzz, or it was the big buzz, right? But like part of it is also going into the company and taking all of the people who are in the roles that are either processing the cash, working on the transaction, taking in the contracts. You've got to talk to the sales agents. You've got to talk to the people who are managing the managers and give them the ability to talk through what's working for them and what's not working for them, and then map out where there's friction in that part of the journey. So I wouldn't say we come in and say, hey, we can solve all of your problems.
Right.
It's more, do you even have a flow of like where the money is coming from? Like where do you start? And like it might be as simple as like someone's going out and selling the business. How are they selling that business? And what are the things that they're looking at? So from a metrics perspective, we've got to start with what are they currently measuring, and what do they think they need to measure too? Because to your point, it might not even be the right measurement, right? Like they may be thinking that they need to try to improve their cash flow, but their cash flow might actually be working. It just could be that they're not investing it properly, or they're not pushing it to the right place or to the right area fast enough, or even using the right approach to get that payment out.
Yeah, so for us, we do managed services, and staff augmentation is our primary business. We're doing a lot more on the delivery side. So for me, billable hours and number of engagements, number of seats, those are my biggest things.
Interesting.
And what used to hit us was our largest contract, of course, bills by the hour. We have 30 people working, billing by the hour, and just the amount of time it takes to produce that invoice was starting to edge us into our cash flow window.
Interesting.
So what we started doing first is we changed some of our contracts to be a flat monthly rate. Yeah, we are reducing a few hours a month here or there, but it normalizes our cash flow. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing we did was we started automating the collection, and the resources software developers hate tracking their time. They need it every day. And a really easy way to make sure we get that is we pay off the time card. And if you didn't enter your time card, you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Yeah.
Collecting that daily, and then automating the quality assurance and the verification, validation, approval of that time card.
Mm-hmm.
and doing that outside of the payment windows. So on invoice day, we now click a button and the invoice is done, where before it was start gathering the information and try and start understanding, but now we also have that data earlier, so I can start saying, hey, look, most months have 20 billing days. This month has 19 billing days, day in February. Or hey, it's October, 23 billing days, hurrah! This is gonna be a good month. And start knowing in advance, hey, we've got 3% or 4% or during COVID, a much higher call out period, a number of hours. Even that little, having that real time allows us to start making decisions earlier. And then also dramatically, we used to have 3 people in accounting putting the invoices together. Now one person can do it in a few minutes because we're doing this real time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you're starting to have cash flow issues, a lot of it is communicating and invoicing and validating to the client early. Because if you go, hey, customer, you have an invoice due today. Really, I haven't validated it. I need to go look at the 130 lines of the invoice. You're not getting paid that day.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
And so understanding that, for me, I was clueless. I worked, give me my money.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way, especially we do a lot of subbing. So we're sending an invoice to somebody who's sending an invoice to somebody else and then waiting for it to come back through. And understanding the exact workflow of how we turn time into money and how our customer turns time turns that into value immediately had a dramatic impact. But then also it allowed us to start saying, hey, the customers that get the most value from us are the ones that operate in this way, and then we can find them and go and meet them and set up our cameras and put up our lights and bring the booth out and go to where the people are and talk to them and know how to engage them, because now we understand how our business works better, allows us to understand who we work with better. So
It's interesting on that note, like one of the big focuses for us, it's not even just so much on the payment side either. We really do a lot on the IT side. We're working with a client right now. You talk about like processes and how do you save time, and our client is in the sweepstakes industry. And so ideally, what was happening was they would have people lined out the door to do a registration process in order to play a game. So they would come in, bring a driver's license, give it to the cashier, and the cashier would take input. It might take 8 minutes per person to register them, and then another 4 minutes per game to register them. My husband came up a way of developing code that would effectively just allow that to happen in 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And so I think for us, it's again, how do we take something that is very manual and how do we improve
please
that
call the
process?
Texas DMV.
Right? Well, and it's exactly right. Like I think about it personally. We're trying to work. Healthcare is another area, right? Like we've got a couple of prospects that we're working with. When you think about, I'm at the age where I'm starting to have things fail, right? So I went to an orthopedic doctor, and you get the link ahead of time, and you're supposed to fill out the paperwork and show up
When you
15
get there,
minutes
they give
early.
you 20 forms. You have to put your name
Then
at
you
the top of every
fill out
form
the
anyway.
same form,
Yep.
and then you sit in a room and they ask you the same questions. So those are things that, that's as much as the payments thing is my focus, the IT side of it is also a big focus for our company, because really there is so much happening right now where there's so many opportunities to improve a lot of repetitive tasks, and that's a big part of what we do as well.
Awesome. All right. So, Laura, awesome conversation. Really enjoyed meeting you. If somebody is trying to improve their processes and get their gets between automation and data quality and improving their processes, how would they reach Divergent Minds?
We are on LinkedIn. We also are just at info@divergentmindsolutions.com. So they can find us either, like I said, on LinkedIn, or they can send an email, or we've also got a website, obviously.
Yeah, and you're not afraid of those long domain names, are you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Awesome. All right. Well, this is about midday here on our last day at Austin Tech Week. We are at Capital Factory on the 5th floor, right outside of the Connection Plus Lounge. Come on by and talk with us. We are taking the entire week and just hearing the voice of the founder.
Awesome. Thank you very much.